Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Thiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 3 p.m. Central, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. Also, you can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, and Abundant Television. We're syndicated, and that's found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And Bob, since I talked to you last, we actually have a podcast now. And so the podcast has us on the newscasters.com. And again, that's where truth matters. You can also find us on our radio station, icradio.media. Again, that's every day, Monday through Friday from 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time. Also, if you have ideas for shows, I love research. I love to dig in libraries and just do all kinds of great things because you're the reason we have this show. So if you have any ideas for shows, I'll be glad to do research for those. You can send an email to donna@donnasedge.com. Okay, the Easter season is coming up, and I'm so excited to have my very good friend, attorney Dr. Bob French. Bob, great to have you on the show today.
Well, I'm glad to be back, Donna. It's always good to see you.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. You have some wonderful information you want to share with everybody.
Yeah, I want to go a couple of things. You've had me do Easter several times, and I've forgotten. Hey, I'm 90. I forget everything.
I'm 65 and I forget.
I, Somebody called the other day and said, I have a question that maybe you could answer. My preacher couldn't answer it. Well, how in the world am I going to answer it? But anyway, she said, who was the young man who ran out of his clothes in the garden when the Romans and the Jews with Judas came to arrest Jesus in Gethsemane? We know that in Mark chapter 14, this story is told that the arresting party grabbed up Jesus. He says, "Why are you bothering me? I'm not going to run away. I've been in the temple every day teaching. You could have got me there. So don't rough me up." That's mainly what he said. So they did go ahead and tie him up and lead him away like a common prisoner. But of course, that fulfilled prophecy. And while I'm passing on that, let me say there are 55 predictions that Jesus Christ was the Savior of the world. Someday we'll get into all of those. Anyway, this lady wanted to know when they arrested Jesus, took him away, the remainder of them grabbed this young man in white because the disciples had already run away. So she says, who was the young man in white?
I want to know who the young man in white was, too.
Well, everybody wants to know, but I thought maybe that on your show I might tell them my opinion of who the young man in white was. And it was nobody other than John Mark. Now, I'm an old trial lawyer, 61 years, so give me the facts and let me rely on the facts, ma'am. So here are the facts. The only wealthy person involved with Jesus Christ as a relative was Mary of Jerusalem. She was the mother of Barnabas. She was a cousin of Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist. She was a cousin, either a first cousin or a second cousin of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Anyway, she and her husband were wealthy, and they lived in this large home in Jerusalem. And her husband was the man who Jesus sent the disciples in to get a donkey for him to ride in on Passover, which fulfilled prophecy, by the way. So anyway, that was her donkey. It was tied to her house, and the disciples took it, saying the master needs it. It was also her house where the upper room was. This is where they had the Last Supper. This is where the 120 of them were gathered when Jesus reappeared by walking through the wall. So it was a large room.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that when people ate back then, they didn't sit up at a table, they laid down and propped up on one arm. So when the 12, they weren't like the, who was it? Was it Da Vinci
Da Vinci.
that painted the Last Supper?
They were sitting at a table.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Although it's a beautiful picture and I like it, and it was miraculously discovered because it had been painted over in the Roman Empire. And now that when they started removing the paint from the wall, they discovered this masterpiece. So it's good that people can enjoy that, but actually they were laying down on one arm. So anyway, this John Mark, who was probably 14 or 15 years old at the time, would have observed this Lord's Supper. Because every time Jesus came to Jerusalem, he followed him around. We know that because he said he did. So he follows Jesus around, and when the disciples left, they went to the Garden of Gethsemane. He knew where they went. Well, here comes Judas with a detail of Roman soldiers and Jews to arrest Jesus at the home of Mary of Jerusalem. And the man of the house told him, he is not here, he's gone. Well, where did he go? Well, as far as I know, he went to the Garden of Gethsemane. Well, so they started to go to the garden, which was probably maybe as much as 2 miles away. Well, the young man, who was already dressed in his bedclothes, a white sheath, linen, went all the way down to his ankle, didn't have any buttons. Anyway, he goes running out the back roads and goes to warn Jesus that they're coming. And he's there when they get there, led by Judas, who goes up and kisses Jesus and identifies him for the detail. And then they take Jesus and bind him up and take him in to go to trial. Now, the young man, they grab him up. The disciples have already left. So now the young man is grabbed up, and they're going to take him because they don't know who he is. Well, he runs out of his nightshirt and runs naked, and it's in the Bible that he ran away naked. So, and he left his nightshirt there. So he gets away, and then everything that happens to Jesus happens. And I think that he showed up again when Mary Magdalene and the other Mary and Salome went to the tomb on Easter morning and were met by they thought by the time she got out of there, it started out a young man in white. But by the time she got away, it was an angel. I don't remember, she was half crazy anyway. Well, she had severe mental problems, and Jesus healed her of them. And so therefore she never left him. And somehow she had money. So anyway, it worked out. So that's the story of the young, and so she says, "Where have you taken him? We brought these salves to anoint the body." And he said, "He's not here, he's risen. Go tell Peter and the disciples he goes before you into Galilee." Now, a lot of people just don't pay any attention to that. But Jesus had said, "After I am dead and resurrected, I will go before you into Galilee." And here the young guy puts his finger right on it for him. And of course, we know that Jesus did that. So anyway, that's my lecture on the young man in white. I am convinced it was John Mark. Now, I'm not the end of all knowledge. It's just I'm looking at, give me the facts, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
And the facts indicate that the young man in white was John Mark. Now, where do we get the proof of that? The book of Mark is the most accurate book in the Gospels. The other writers, Matthew, Luke, John, copied the book of Mark. Why would they do this? Well, we kind of figure that the book of Mark was written in Ephesus, which is now Istanbul or very close to it. It was a Roman retirement area, the country of Turkey. And we know that John Mark went there. How do we know? Well, he went on a missionary journey with Paul and his cousin Barnabas.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a hard, diligent worker, but he and Paul had a falling out. And they had a falling out because Paul was trying to limit the gospel of Jesus to the Jews. John Mark wanted it limited to the world.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted it wide open. And so they had this horrible disagreement and couldn't solve the problem. Paul had a horrible temper anyway. So John Mark says, that's fine with me, I'm going home. So he left. Well, Paul and Barnabas then picked up Silas to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
So you had Paul, Barnabas, and Silas going around preaching. But Paul, to his everlasting credit, did let up on his holding Jesus to the Jews and opened it up to Jesus to the world. And if we read his books, we see this developing and coming. So anyway, they go back to Jerusalem and they run into John Mark and they make amends. So then Paul is arrested and taken to Rome. So Mark goes with him as his secretary because while he'd been mad at Paul and Paul been mad at him, that's unfair to say this. I don't know that they were mad, but anyway.
People got upset with each other back then too, didn't
yeah,
they?
they were separated. So he went to Rome and was Peter's secretary. Peter was in jail. And Peter said such nice things about John Mark. Well, when he got back and they made amends, Paul then took Mark back to Rome with him because he went to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark became his secretary. So the person who knew most about the life and times of Jesus had become John Mark. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't take away from Luke that he lived and stayed in close proximity to the Virgin Mary for years. So, but John Mark doesn't touch the Christmas story. Mm-hmm. Luke does. See how the Lord works? Isn't that beautiful?
It's beautiful, but the biggest question is always, why do the four Gospels they do have varying differences with the account of what actually happened?
Not very much. Most of them copy Mark. They're only, don't hold me to this, but I think there are only 60 verses in Mark that are not copied by the other writers. So he was the authority because he had both the knowledge of Peter and Paul. And so he goes remember, they're killing these disciples as fast as they can find them. Every one of them died a horrible death. And Mark gets out of the clutches and goes to Asia Minor. And it probably was about AD 60. No, I'll take it back. It had to be after AD 70 because in AD 70 the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. So it had to be AD 70, and he would have been probably in his 70s. Maybe not quite, maybe in his 60s. Anyway, he sat down and wrote his book. And it's the most accurate book in the New Testament Gospels because he put down exactly what he saw, which he traveled around a lot with Jesus. If Jesus was in 30 miles of Jerusalem, John Mark was there, and he was only 12 or 13 years old then. So he had that as a boy. Then he lived with his mother, who was related to Jesus through Mary the Virgin. So that's the story of the young man in white. And I've written a book, my first book was the book of John. Let me hawk it a little bit. $20 on Amazon.
Easy to find.
Easy to find, Bob Frank. And it's an adventure with John. And here lately, I've been rereading it a little bit. It took me 20 years to write it. And it's so good. For example, I just opened it. Lazarus hobbled out, tied up in grave clothes with a burial napkin over his face. And Jesus told the people to untie him and let him go. Some people witnessing the event went immediately to Jerusalem and reported the miracle to the Pharisees and chief priests. The meaning of this incident was completely missed by them. Jesus was illustrating for all time the importance of faith and a strong belief system. It was faith on the part of everyone participating that raised Lazarus from the dead. It was their faith that allowed Jesus to perform the miracle, and it's still the same. If a Christian wishes to see miracles, he or she must only believe and watch God work. I wrote that. Can't believe it. Yeah.
I can believe it.
Anyway, that was written so many years ago, and I just opened the book, and there it is. It's a wonderful book. It's my best work, and now I have decided that I'm going to publish Mark, and this right here is the man. Can the reader?
That's going to be a big book.
Well, it's
with lots of great information.
Well, this one over here's got 800 pages. So anyway, this is going to be Mark.
Now these are good study guides also for people who are going to school. They're going to.
Oh yeah.
I mean, these are must-have books.
Well, this explains it in modern day English and modern terms, and it doesn't plagiarize anything. It follows the scriptures as they're written. If I give you my opinion, it's my opinion, and I tell you it is. You can have your own. Now, I just opened it here. Chapter 6 begins at another unspecified time, probably in the spring of 39 AD. See, I'm setting the time for you. This event is set in Galilee, which have perplexed biblical scholars because it is placed within the time frame of the Judean ministry of Jesus. This led some scholars to believe that chapter 6 should have been placed in the gospel before chapter 5. This would cause the events to flow in a more logical order. The book of John would be easier to read if Jesus was preaching in Galilee, fed the crowd, and then went to Jerusalem where he healed the man at the pool. Then he had a discourse with religious leaders. So just explaining it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm amazed.
Well, let me ask you a question too, and this involves timeline, the timeline throughout the entire Bible, and you are a student of that. So you've been studying timelines for a long time. How important is it for people to realize that?
It is. I can't even stress the importance of it. Um,
Because that's critical.
well, let me see here. There are 55 prophecies of Jesus Christ, and the whole thing is if you don't believe in Jesus, that Jesus was Jesus all the way through, then you're nuts because you go back thousands of years. And well, let's take Isaiah. Doggone it, let me see here. Here's my old raggedy Bible. Let me pull up.
Duct tape is for everything.
Yep. Well, this Bible's been worn out like so many others. Let's see here. Falling right out to Isaiah. And this is 1,000 years before Jesus. And it says, therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name shall be Emmanuel. Does it get any clearer than that?
It's right there. I mean,
it says over in I'm in Isaiah chapter 7, and these are just marked up. All right then, the Lord himself will choose the sign. A child shall be born to a virgin, and he shall be called Emmanuel, meaning God with us. By the time this child is weaned and known right from wrong, and knows right from wrong, the kings will hear so much. One king of Israel, I'm having trouble with it because I don't have my glasses. I should have brought them. Anyway, one king shall, after the child is growing, be dead. There's a reason for that. The murder of the innocents and Joseph having to flee into Egypt. But you asked me the question, and this is just so important that you realize, and as you realize the prophecy. Now, let me make one thing clear. Jesus Christ said that he was no more the Son of God than you are. And the difference between us and Jesus Christ is he knew he was Jesus Christ. He knew who he was, and we don't. We have a problem with it. And one of the things I want to talk about today is don't let me run over time.
You got 1 minute before we go into break. Can you believe 30 minutes is flying?
It was pretty quick.
It goes fast.
I wanted to read a little more of Isaiah, and I didn't mean to get distracted. We'll talk about something else.
Oh no, this is a really good topic. Before we go into break, though, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
And because I mean, even Muslims say, yeah, there's a Jesus. Even they say that. So why do they have such a difficult time? Why is Allah their savior instead of Jesus? Even they knew they were Jesus. They admit it.
Well, I think people want to deny the resurrection. When you get over the break, let me deal with man's worst enemy.
Himself.
And that'll explain it for you.
It's himself. It's myself. I'm my own worst enemy, really. Let's go into a commercial break, and we will return in just a few minutes. So you hang in there, okay? Good stuff. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender. The Hatter Cafe and Country Inn is nestled in the northeast corner of Alabama the Beautiful in the delightful town of Mentone. We're located on top of scenic Lookout Mountain near Little River and DeSoto State Park and located only 5 minutes from shopping and restaurants. There is also a nearby community walking path and golf course. We welcome everyone through the doors and we are committed to outstanding service for all guests. At the Hatter Cafe and Country Inn, we invite people from all walks of life to come and get away from it all, enjoy the open spaces, treetop views, fresh, clean air, and experience Southern hospitality at its finest. We look forward to hosting you. To reserve a special event, or if you would love a special getaway at the Country Inn, you can call us at 256-634-2018. Good afternoon. We're back. My name is Donna, and I am your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Thank you so much for listening every day, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 3 p.m. Central, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. Very special friend with me. His name is Bob French. He's an author, he's a speaker, he is an attorney. He is also Dr. Bob French. But I have to tell you, one of the smartest people I have ever met, even though you do have all these degrees.
Well, you're very kind.
Absolutely, because I'm just having to tell you, so I have a cousin who has degree after degree after degree, and he doesn't have any common sense whatsoever. So, however, they didn't take the common sense out of your head, so that's nice.
Well, going back to Easter, which really while we're in passing, let me say that when the young Christian movement was moving in the Roman Empire, our project forefathers stole the holidays of the heretics to convince them of Christianity. For example, we stole Christmas, which was Saturnalus, where the Romans worshipped all these crazy gods. So we moved Christmas, Jesus' birthday, to there. And that brings us to Easter. Easter was originally Estori, and that's a German word, and it was a celebration of the spring equinox. A lot of people say, that's a crazy word. What's the equinox? The equinox is where the sun shines directly on the center of the earth for 24 hours and on the equator. Mm-hmm. And that's where all the earth gets the same amount of sun. That's March 21st and September the 19th or 20th, sometime in September. Mm-hmm. So 2 times a year, and it's called the equinox. And it's always been amazing to ancient man because he knows that on this day, we've got the same amount of sun over here as over there. So Estori was a German and Norse people celebration of the equinox. We've always celebrated these equinoxes. So they celebrated that, and from that, our early church converted it Estoril to Easter. And that's why we celebrate Easter at the end of March. I'm full of stuff like that.
Well, one of these days we need to have a show about Stonehenge and some of these, factors that, the wonders of the world. I'd love to have a show with your ideas on that as well.
Okay, we'll do that. Right now, I think we ought to talk about talking about the young man in white. I hope I told you some things about somebody involved in the crucifixion that you didn't know. So now I'm going to talk about another character involved in the crucifixion that we don't know much about, and that's Pilate's wife. Gotta remember Pilate's wife. He's on the judgment seat, listening to the case against Jesus, and he gets a note from his wife. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Pilate first. His real name was Pelotus, and he was the fifth procurator or government representative of Palestine. He held office from AD 26 until AD 36, and he's the only Roman mentioned in the Apostles' Creed. Now, although he was a great soldier, he was probably an expert with a javelin. He is portrayed in Christianity as a coward who condemned Christ to the Roman crucifixion in AD 30. Well, originally, the church portrayed Pilate as a devil because if he had not convicted Jesus, he would not have died the horrible death, been resurrected to show us that man conquers death. Now, that brings me to this. What is man's real enemy in the world? Death. Everybody's going to die. And just when you think you're not, you're snatched away. And it's so sad because we say, well, we want you saved. Well, what are you saved from? You're saved from death. How are you saved? Well, I believe Jesus Christ did it, so I can do it. And that's what we call getting salvation, getting saved. Because this is our enemy. I'm facing that enemy at age 90. Most everybody I know has already faced it. And you're gone. You're here one day and gone tomorrow. Well, question is this. When you're dead, you're dead. Everything is over. That's such a sad commentary. I'm not dead when I'm dead. I have changed from death unto life because Jesus Christ showed me how it's done. And Jesus Christ, up until Jesus Christ, men believed that if there was an eternal life, they had to get away from all the bad things in their life that they called sin. Well, Jesus Christ died for all of that. There's no need to go out and sacrifice a pig. If you're going to roast a pig, give me some barbecue.
Where's the barbecue sauce?
You don't have to roast a lamb. Give me some of that mutton. So the whole thing is Jesus died publicly before 250,000 witnesses and 1 million people knowing about it. The most horrible death imaginable. He died. And he died, and he knew it was going to happen, and he knew how it was going to happen, and then he survived. Now, he survived in the physical to show us that he's back. And then he went into the ephemeral. Now, I don't know about surviving in the physical day. Sometimes I think people do have miracles. But when I'm dead, that hunk of junk that I'm wearing right now and living in is gone. But there's something else. Remember, we talked once when I lectured on your program that God creates no waste.
Mm-hmm.
There is no waste in God's creation. You can't find anything. You just find form changers. But it's still all there. When you have an explosion, you say it's gone. It's not gone, it's in the air. Yeah, but the air's gone. It ain't. It's just going to the Kennelly heaviside layer, and it's going to stay. So there's no waste. And if there is no waste, then my salvation is assured.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, when I die, to another adventure. And this life has been a great adventure. I don't remember where I was before, but I do know that somehow, some way, a little swimming sperm connected with an egg, and a zygote materialized, and that was me.
Mm-hmm. You made your appearance.
I made my appearance right there. My mother carried me, and I jumped out into this reality. Now I'm going to jump into another reality when I'm dead. And those that don't believe that, they're going to be shocked. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But anyway, getting back to Pilate's name. He was from the family of Gens, Gens, from Ponti. And his name actually means one armed with a javelin. So he was destined to be a soldier. Now, there's a yarn circulating about Pilate, which is yarns about everybody, that he was an illegitimate son of Tyrus, king of Mayence, and he was sent to Rome as a hostage. When he was there, he murdered a man, and he was sent to Pontius in Asia Minor. And without authority, he acted as a soldier and put down a rebellion that regained favor with Rome. And he was awarded for his valor by being governor of Judea. Palestine was considered so difficult to govern that the procurator was the only one on earth who reported directly to the emperor. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, this gets us into modern day happenstance. The people of Judea, the Jews, were divided into 12 tribes. Remember? Mm-hmm. They all occupied the promised land, but they couldn't get along. So they divided into northern tribes and southern tribes. Well, that didn't work, so you had emperor come along and defeat them all. Mm-hmm. That happened over and over from Nebuchadnezzar, Tyrus, king of Syria. No, not Syria. Iran. It was called Tyre, Tyre. So anyway, the prophet said that the Jews were a hard, stiff-necked people. And I'm going to bring this up to date because during the Roman Empire, and the brothers and others who led the Jews tried to revolt against Rome. Now, Rome was the greatest empire in the history of the world. And what they did was, and you notice I've got Augustus bust right over here. I admire Augustus.
You need to put a cowboy hat on top of his head.
Yeah, well, I got Bear Bryant in there. I ought to put a helmet on him. Anyway, they would rebel. They'd come together and rebel. And all Rome said in the empire was, you belong to us, you pay your taxes, and we don't care what you do. Just keep the peace. Well, the whole world did, but not the Jews. They rebelled over and over and over. And Simon and his brothers, oh boy, I'm having a senior moment. Goodness, can't remember their last name. It happens. And more often now. Anyway, Simon's brother also was another Judas. And oh goodness, it's right on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, they were the last successful rebel leaders against Rome. And finally, in AD 70, Nero said, I've had it with those Jews. We got too many of them, and we're going to give everybody a few. So he went, and General Pompey captured Palestine and destroyed the temple. The only thing left is the Wailing Wall. So they then took the Jews into captivity and deposited several thousand here in Cairo, several thousand in Britain, several thousand in Germany, and around the world. It's called a diaspora. So now there are no Jews in Palestine. In AD 72, they're all gone. Well, it stayed that way. Of course, when I was a boy, everybody talked about the wandering Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it stayed that way until 1918, when an Englishman by the name of Balfour made a declaration that the Jews should be given Palestine back. It was their land for thousands of years. They should have it. Well, the League of Nations ignored Balfour. Anyway, we come on up to World War II, where Hitler tried to just exterminate the Jews in Europe. And all of this was a result of what was called the blood curse. The blood curse was, at the time Jesus died, that there was a curse put on the Jews for doing it. Well, a lot of the Christians didn't care what was happening to the Jews, and poor Jews have been paying a price ever since. Anyway, in 1946, after World War II, we had the United Nations succeeding the League of Nations, which was a total failure. And now the United Nations is a total flop. Anyway, here comes Balfour again. And he says, I told you in 1918 that this is the Jews' land. It was 4,000 years they were there from Abraham. They have a right to go back. Well, lo and behold, the Balfour Declaration was adopted. Golda Meir was made the prime minister, and away they went to Palestine, and the Jews were told to come home. They said, well, there's already Arabs everywhere. They're going. Come on home. It's not their land. So they just moved into homes with the Arabs. And that is why we have what's going on today with that war. Mm-hmm. The Arabs are saying it was our land, and in 1946 you took it away from us. We want the Jews gone. Jews are saying we had it for 4,000 years and the Romans took it away from us and kept it for 2,000 years, and now it's ours. Get out. And that's what they're fighting over. Mm-hmm. So you see how the Bible comes still today? I mean, we're sitting right on it.
Let me ask you a question. This is about Pilate. In today's world, who is the Pilate?
Who was Pilate?
No, we know who Pilate was back then.
Yeah.
But who would you correlate and say Pilate is today?
That's a hard question. I don't know. It's just going to have to play out.
Some would say, Vladimir Putin would be one. Would you say that?
I'm not so sure. Putin claims to be a Christian. I mean, he wears Eastern Catholicism and all of that, and he's a cross around his neck and everything else. I don't know. The world today is in such a conflict, I can't figure it out. I can't figure out the United States. Anyway, getting back to Pilate's wife, Pilate gave the Jews unmitigated hell, if you want to say it, and he seemed to enjoy tormenting them. He took a temple tax and built an aqueduct, and it all started when he put a Roman eagle up over the temple, and he had to wind up executing about 40 Jews who tore it down. And so he had no use for it whatsoever. He actually despised being a procurator. But being a soldier, he did what he was told. And because of his relationship with the emperor, he could get away with a lot of things the other procurators and governors couldn't. Now, Pilate's wife is unnamed. So she appears in one verse in the Gospel of Matthew. And she had this dream to persuade her husband not to kill Jesus. And let me quote it. When he was set down in the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, have thou nothing to do with this just man, because I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. Now, because of that, the Eastern Orthodox Church canonized her as a saint. She's recognized as a saint in the Eastern Church, but not in our church. So Pilate, based on what she said, sent for a bowl and washed his hands of it, which was a coward's way out. But going back to the prophecy, they're living it step by step by step. It's amazing when you get into the prophecy of how close everything happened, just like it said it would. So anyway, when he washed his hands and the Jewish leadership took over and killed Jesus, his hand washing was considered the blood curse. And for that, the Jews suffered for centuries. Well, in early Christian tradition, they had her name as Percula, Percula, Claudia Percula. And the Eastern Orthodox Church canonized her because they say that after Pilate died, she converted to Christianity, believing that Jesus was the Son of God and survived death. And while I'm on that, Jesus was the Son of God, but so are you. So am I. Everybody that has this tiny little spark of life is the Son of God. Because when that spark of life is created in that zygote, the Spirit of God attaches to it. That's why I'm against abortion. They were complaining the other day that this woman had to drive 300 miles to kill her baby. I mean, I adopted 2 children. Give me a break.
We have 2 minutes left in this segment. Can you believe how fast time flies when you're on the show?
Well, I think I've talked about Pilate's wife. There's been several plays about her going where she's tempted by the devil. In others, she wakes and sends a message to Pilate. And so that's about all we know about her. People have said she was a witch. Well, all crazy stuff. She was a daggone Roman soldier's wife. And she had a dream, and she sent the dream message to her husband, and he didn't pay any attention to it. Well, he washed his hands of it and fulfilled prophecy that led Jesus Christ to the cross, that showed us proof that man survives death. Okay.
Nothing more. I mean, it's that simple, right?
It's that simple. And I get a kick out of atheists and agnostics, because when they die, they're all dressed up with no place to go.
Bob, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. It's always a pleasure. How can folks find your books? Now, we talked about it earlier in the show, but just in case you're just now listening in.
Now, people want to get one of my books, just go to Amazon, Bob French, and they come up. And this one here, it took me 20 years to write, and that's what really put me to writing. And since then, I've written 13 books. And the next one that's going to press is Mark. I can't hold back on it anymore.
No, you can't. And I want to make sure I get a copy of that too. When it goes on Amazon, I want you to sign it for me, okay?
Yeah, I will.
Absolutely. Bob, again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Glad to be here. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Celebrate and be happy.
Absolutely. And thank you again so much for watching. I know you could be doing anything else, but you're watching us, and we sure do appreciate it. Thank you. See you next time. The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462.
My Towels solved the problem that we've all had with towels. You go into the stores and they feel lotiony and soft, but then you get them home and they wind dry you. That's why I made My Towels. They actually work, they're soft, and they absorb. And now I'm excited to announce 2 brand new lines of My Towels. What makes them the best towels ever is they're now made with 100% long staple Shapir cotton. This is a combed ring spun cotton that makes My Towels even softer and more absorbent than ever. And now you get a 6-piece set for an amazing introductory sale price as low as $29.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for only $29.98. Or you can get my designer premium line for just $20 more. Either way, you save 50% now on all My Towels. They actually work. What a concept. This offer won't last long, so please order now.
MyPillow.com.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at TwinCityUsedCars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for 2 or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.